Hello and welcome to another episode of the Woodward Tigers podcast here at woodwardsports.com. I'm Rohalik, still alongside me is Chris Brown and Uper, and tonight we'll have a special guest which I'll introduce in just a moment. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartMedia, and Stitchler, and download the Woodward Sports app today, and we got some stuff coming up on that as well. But our guest tonight, this is the first time we've had him on the Woodward Sports platform, and he was on he was part of a group podcast we had for the draft show recently, and I always like hearing from him because we can talk about a lot of different things. We get really nerdy into board games and among other things. But Jeff Ellis, the host of the Locked On Guardians podcast, and I was going to have him on last week, but just didn't realize just scheduling, and that's just my fault on that. But Jeff, how you doing, man?
Doing well. If you want to talk about the game Hiss, that's the one I've been playing the most of late, but that's because, my daughter is 4. So we've been just starting to get into games. Caribou and Hiss have been my main plays. Local library has board games here. It's kind of fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. I played this game with train, like you own a railroad and control parts of the roadways and stuff, and played that recently. I forgot the name. Is it railroad? I don't know what the name of it was, but you control certain pathways, and it's a little intensive, but it's pretty cool. Chris,
like Ticket to Ride.
Yeah, Ticket to Ride. Thank you.
Was it okay? Ticket to Ride is my go-to train game. There's a lot of train games, but it's always a solid one. I find that one is a solid one in the app just for relaxing. I know everyone's here to talk about board games.
No, it's just
after this last series, I'm not. I got a 1-star review on my own podcast for being too negative with the Guardians and for questioning Tito. Oh, I said that name weird for my questioning how the lineup was carried. So I better talk about board games than the Guardians and what they kind of shoveled out there for the Tigers this past week.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because first and foremost, it was from my understanding that I guess we heard in the press box that Jose Ramirez had a thumb injury he was dealing with or something along those lines, or
yeah, why is my computer not working? So I have a two monitor setup, and because this is what I've talked about recently on the show, I'm like, come on, click over. It's not there. So yeah, in the Colorado series, he hurt his thumb, and I sat there and on my own podcast, I showed like I broke my thumb playing third base. It doesn't bend, like it hurts. Like that's one of those injuries. It just I can't bend it. Also as a third baseman, nowhere. Not a good third baseman, but just as a third baseman, I broke my thumb, and it affects everything. Like you try to write and it hurts. And since that injury, like if you go and you put the little brackets on Fangraphs, he's got a 78 runs created plus since then. He is dramatically. I mean, as someone who watches them almost every day, occasionally there are a few games in this series where I'm like, okay, that's enough. I don't need to torture myself. I'm just gonna shut this down. He's expanding what he swing. I mean, this is a guy for up until that thumb injury, he had more home runs than strikeouts. Like he was doing that. And then, I mean, they have a lot like, I people who listen, if anyone listens to Locked On Guardians, are probably already tired of hearing me rail against like Owen Miller was good for 50 plate appearances and has been terrible. Like this is a whole team where, don't get me wrong, like Josh Naylor has been a revelation for them. Andres has been fantastic. He's coming down, but that was going to happen because he had some BABIP luck. But they've nailed down a few core pieces. They still need to keep going. Their minor leagues are just deep. Like they don't have, we did our crossover with all the Locked On podcasts at the start of the year. And everyone's like, who's the team to watch prospect wise? And, the internal debate from all the other ones was Kansas City versus Detroit. And I decided for Detroit because, it's the big names. But right. I went out of my way to be like, I don't think you want to just completely shunt Cleveland out because of that depth. Like the young players are coming. Supposedly, I don't know why it took this long, but Nolan Jones, we might be seeing on Friday, get an official announcement. Everything's kind of like unofficially all of us saying like, oh, get ready. It's nothing official, but that's where they kind of are.
As far as that goes too, because Chris and I have talked about the way they draft. I mean, coming up with the draft here in less than, I think it's about 10 days away, and there's been a couple of guys in their outfield depth has become actually, we've talked about this numerous times before, Jeff. That's always been the question about the outfield, and suddenly there's a couple players that have emerged where they're down in triple. Like you have the likes of I was trying to think of I don't know how Nolan Jones is doing right now. Currently, I mean he's in infield obviously, but
I think he's hitting like 340. He's going the other way. So Nolan Jones has been a favorite of mine back to his draft year. I actually had him rated higher than Will Benson on my board, and I followed him. And everyone he had a bad first half, and then the amazing speed at which everyone jumped off this kid as a 21-year-old, maybe 22-year-old in AAA after a bad first half. But since he's come back and he started this year hurt, but he's hitting like 340. He's killing the ball right now. So he's not killing it as much as Will Brennan, who I'm sure he'll mention as well, but he is right up there in terms of, and he's mostly playing outfielder for them.
Chris, did you want to add anything about the outfield? Some of the younger guys.
Excuse me. I have a brutal cold right now, so I have. I'm trying to stay off mic as much as you like. That's why I keep being muted. But yeah, the guy that's kind of surprised me is who I'd given up on is Will Benson. I basically he's just never gonna get it. He strikes out too much, and then suddenly he cut his strikeout rate by like 10%, and he's walking and hitting for power. So I was kind of surprised there.
No, he's made it where he's at least interesting. It's just hard for him because of Jones and Brennan. Like I said, Brennan's probably the breakout performer of this year's minors for the Guardians, just in terms of knowledge, I think.
Yeah, and what got out of hand was seeing two positional players pitch the other night, and I thought that was why I was Sandy Leon out. It was so weird. It was one of the strangest moments I've seen in a long time because Sandy Leon's just throwing BP out there, and then you have Harold Castro, and I feel like
Sandy Leon was the highlight of that game for me.
Yeah,
as good as it got as a Guardians fan.
But it's just funny that Hinch is like, yeah, you know what? Fine, I'll put my positional player out there. And but as far as the Guardians are the youngest team in the American League, and they have that going for them. And are you surprised to see them at 500 right now at this point in the season?
I am not, because they didn't lose anyone from a year ago, and they were about a 500 team last year. And that was with Shane Bieber missing, 60% of the year. Most of their pitching staff was missed at least a month to 3. And, Connor Pilkington is such an upgrade over JC Mejia. And Sam Henches was so bad last year as a starter. I mean, I was calling for him to be cut. I'll just be honest. It's you get some wrong, you get some right. I was wrong. I didn't think it would work out for him in the pen because that fastball just seemed flat. It's obviously worked quite well now that he's in the pen for them, but they didn't have any options. And, it is interesting because they do get so much credit for their pitching development, but they don't. AA is super interesting right now, and they just called up a few guys, but they still kind of have a bridge issue right now where they don't have Pilkington is a filler. Kirk McCarty, who did he pitch in the Detroit series? Was he a doubleheader pitcher in that series? The lefty, or was that in the Yankees double? I think it was the Yankees with the double.
Yeah, I don't remember.
He did pitch Detroit.
Yeah, so he just got claimed by Baltimore. They're still they lack some pitching depth. They they traded for Tobias Myers and just released him. So it is interesting. Pitching is arguably their number one issue outside of catcher. I don't know if I have any faith in anyone outside. I mean, Bieber hadn't given up more than 3 runs since May 7th. So I'll say that it was an outlier, but like I said, I have no idea how to describe that series other than to say I was talking some smack that this is a series that let Jose rest on the disabled list. Detroit has a historically bad offense so far this year. Just telling people if you're not paying attention, it's not just bad, it's historically bad. And then Cleveland's pitching made you guys look like the Yankees. So I kind of left that series feeling like I just don't know anything.
And even defensively, this is a team that's pretty good on defense, and some of the routine plays at second base were just, no offense, they're atrocious. It was surprising because this is a team that, and also in terms of first pitch contact, they're one of the highest teams in the American League in that regard. But I thought that I didn't think they were aggressive enough against the Tiger staff. That was, let's be honest here, the Tiger staff has been it's been beaten up quite a bit recently, but I thought that, especially the bullpen did not allow a single run during the whole series. And I thought I was waiting for Cleveland at some point to come back in the game because that's what they do. but it didn't happen. It was just strange to see that, but it did seem like they weren't aggressive enough early in the counts like they normally are.
Yeah, since May 1st, we've definitely seen a decline for Cleveland just in terms of overall performance. Before May 1st, everyone was like, Owen Miller is going to be I remember us talking about, I think it was like San Diego when I was doing like a position by position review. And I was like, we're going to give the advantage at first base to Luke Voigt, or maybe his DH at the time. And I had a bunch of people getting mad that I dared say that Voigt was better than Miller. And it's just, his production has fallen way off. And he also had a lot of defensive miscues first base for him. And then, the one nice thing is like Fran Mills healthy and back and performing. Ahmed Rosario was awful early and he's doing well, but this whole team is so driven by Jose. And when he went down, that hurt them. It is, if you look at like who's had a runs created plus over 100 since that Colorado series, it's Fran Mill, it's Ahmed, it's Quan, and it's Rosario. And then everyone else is below that line. And even if you just look at the full year stats, I was talking about on the show that, the Tigers had 2 players with an OPS over 700, and then I look over and the Guardians are the same. Like if you look at that lineup, they had, now Naylor is down and that hurt a lot as well, as he has been arguably their second, no worse than their third best hitter this year. But like I said, it's kind of the nice thing where I'm very excited to see Nolan Jones. I'm very excited to see if we can end up seeing someone like Will Brennan this year as well. They have some interesting players. I mean, personally, I'd rather see like Alex Call out there than Oscar Mercado, just because we know what he can do if they want a right-handed bat. But the Guardians are in a fun place. I will say I'm very surprised about the Tigers in general, because again, in those like reviews of this division, they were like my sleeper pick for the secondary place. It was just really like in the overall talent that was rising up with you guys. And I guess my question to you guys back is like, how much of the anger with this team is underperformance, or is it about that free agent class doing negative value, right? That free agent class has to be a net negative right now.
Well, certainly Baez hasn't hit he had a home run tonight, but hasn't hit. As you can put some of it, and obviously Eduardo Rodriguez has been a complete zero so far, but it's also some of the returning talent. Candelario has not hit. Jonathan Scope has been awful at the plate. A little bit better lately, and not coincidentally, they're winning a few games. So it's really just been a combination. I mean, I don't think anybody expected Torkelson to necessarily light it up, but he's also been one of the worst hitters in baseball. So there's just a lot of blame to throw around.
Yeah, it's more of like a comedy of errors, really. Like Baez is he's playing solid defense. He's striking out at the second lowest rate of his career. He's just not hitting the ball hard at all. It's bizarre, although he did homer tonight. But yeah, to Youp's point, like, Candelario has completely fallen off the cliff. Jonathan Scope is the worst regular hitter in baseball. Spencer Torkelson has the worst WAR of any regular in baseball. But like, the free agent class hasn't been all that bad. I mean, Andrew Chafin has been as advertised. So is Michael Pineda from a finger injury. He's been a fifth starter. That's what they wanted. Yeah. And Rodriguez was getting it together before he mysteriously disappeared. So it's more about like, people just think that they overestimated what they had before, and also just this bizarre string of bad luck where you trade Isaac Paredes, who kind of an underperforming malcontent of an infielder, for Austin Meadows, a bona fide all-star power hitting outfielder, and Austin Meadows comes down with Ebola and every other disease on the planet and has 0 home runs, and Isaac Paredes suddenly determines that he's actually just a great power hitter. It's just one of those, like, it feels like Avila's cursed, basically.
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned too, when you see what sucks about, and we've talked about this before numerous times on the podcast, about stuff like we hear on Twitter, such as even with this whole comment. Tigers are fucking idiots. I mean, when you hear stuff like that, that's kind of amplified right there. But it's honestly, for me, going down there the ballpark every day and hearing like just kind of beside of the fact that you hear Spencer Torkelson they're trying to get answers about Spencer Torkelson's swing, and they're not really getting anything. It's kind of rather tight-lipped to a certain extent. And Avila is kind of a lot of Avila's part of it, or some of the things he has done has been cursed. But at the same time, look, I'm looking right now. We just see what's going on right now in Chicago. There's a pitcher who's pitching in the 27th round, or was drafted in the 27th round. That's unheard of. The Tigers' development in terms of pitching is doing very well. And Chris and I were talking about this yesterday. The 2020 draft class, there's Colt Keith that's doing very well. There's a couple things he can hang your hat on, but whether that, again, the development of pitching and having guys that come up and can step up, that has not been done. As long as I've watched the Tigers, I can't remember a time they've had players like this step up and be the next guy up. And Brisky's a prime example of that. Garrett Hill, I mean, against the Guardians. So I'm sure you were like, oh yeah, Garrett Hill, rookie, it would come up and the Indians would feast on him. And I was impressed.
I saw it was the first time a rookie pitcher for the Tigers had ever had a 2-hit, gone 6 innings, only giving up 2 hits. I read the article in The Athletic about him before he played, about how he was a guy that they didn't think enough to protect from the Rule 5 draft. And it's one of those things. When that draft comes back, I'm going to be very curious, because it feels like every team had a guy like Garrett Hill. I think the Guardians had Oscar Gonzalez, was their equivalent, who was playing, another guy who went down to injury, who's really made this lineup very different. But for me, Detroit's had pitching. I was more surprised by the offensive explosion, because when I'm going through the lists again to do the Locked On Guardians podcast, and I'm talking about like who are the worst batters in baseball, just to really nail home how bad Ernie Clement is. So, I'm going in like, okay, this is because Tito Francona has a love affair with players that were him. That's all it is. And, I tweeted out, and it always vaguely amuses me that like baseball players must search their own names, because I tweeted out that like Michael Martinez, Michael Freeman, and Ernie Clement are all the same person. Have we all seen if they're in a room? And then Freeman found the tweet and responded to me. He was very classy about it, but he still put some stank on my tweet. And I'm like, I didn't tag anyone. You must look for your own name.
Nice.
But he does. And it's not just that those guys are like, Freeman was at least close to league average at points. Like, he was not the worst, but Martinez and Clement are like, Clement is literally bottom 10. And it's not just that he plays them. It's that he decides, hey, I know you're like a shortstop, second baseman. We're going to have you play some left, some center, some third. We're going to have you play all the spots. And, I was bringing that up because when I was looking at those worst hitters in baseball, it's like there was Spencer Torkelson. There was Tucker Barnhart. Essentially, you could probably make the least productive lineup in baseball between the Tigers and the Guardians when you're like looking at the Clements and the Straws and Hedges and Maley and Owen Miller since May 1st. It's like you could take these two teams and we could do the opposite of an all-star game. We can make like the worst lineup in baseball just through the Guardians and the Tigers, I feel like.
We could just call it the Great Lakes Classic or something.
We're going to make a team that we think a really good, like a J. Sarah high school team could maybe beat.
Love it. Hey, Jeff, I was wondering on Shane Bieber, the difference now between Cy Young Shane Bieber and present day Shane Bieber, how would you quantify it? What's the biggest change? He's gone from great to kind of good.
So I think one of the things we have to look at, like before I get into what's changed, is like we can't take anything from the 2020 year. Mm-hmm. Like that 2020 year, Bieber and Plesac and Kenta Maeda and so many guys had career years because they got to face only the Central. And like you can go back and do a direct line and look at all those pitchers who had one great spiking year. And like Zach Plesac has never. It's why, because he got to only faced the AL and the NL Central, and the NL Central had like one team trying. So people got fat on really poor hitting. Bieber was still solid last year, and he was solid before then. Right now, his fastball, it's still not recovered. We don't know what the deal is, but his fastball is still 2 to 3 miles an hour slower than it was back in 2019, not just 2020, but 2020 as well. So his fastball, he's really got to hit his spots, and that's always been something he's good at. He has still been a really steady pitcher. I mean, he started out not so good, and I kind of want to go look at his game logs. I feel like maybe he did the Tigers beat up on him in that bad stretch. Maybe he's bad against the Tigers in general this year. But yeah, since he doesn't have like that extra oomph on the fastball that was there, and we don't know what occurred exactly. He has to be a lot more perfect. He has to be a lot more fine. And like I said, he hasn't given up more than 3 runs since May 7th, but he has been pretty consistent in terms of going 6 innings and giving up 3 runs in most of his outings, because the Guardians like fly ball pitchers, and they're loaded with guys who give up home runs. They're just, Tristan McKenzie he leads the Guardians in home runs right now. Between hitters or pitchers, he is their team leader.
I was curious talking to Raj about this earlier, that the Guardians have a bunch of really interesting pitching prospects not too far away, and I was curious if they might do the classic to try to trade Shane Bieber this year, because it's not a great starting pitching trade market. You think he's got 3 years left? I mean, you'd get a bundle for him probably, but if he's not the guy he once was, then maybe they would want to hold off until he's better, or I don't know.
I've always said this offseason is probably the window to hit for him. We'll see if because that's the problem right now. It's like I don't know what his value's at. Honestly, I don't, because he's not a top 10 pitcher in baseball right now. He's just not. I don't think anyone can put him in there. Is he in the top 20? I think so. I think he probably still slots in the 20 or so best arms, but he's not really that feared guy that he was for about a year and a half. And I'm not sure what's like I said, everything else seems to be good. It's kind of a weird thing. And the one thing I'll say, like, with their pitching is we're yet to see a lot of those young starters translate. Like Tristan McKenzie, for all of his brilliance, and he was absolutely brilliant this past weekend. Like he was just awful. He was literally their worst starter for a long time. Like for stretches this year. He hasn't had any consistency. Plesac has been a back end guy. Aaron Savale has really regressed. So you're hoping for Gavin Williams. I think to me, he's their top pitching prospect, just because Espino hasn't pitched in 2 months. And there's been, the minute they drafted him, I said he'll get hurt before he gets to the big leagues. And this is a relatively minor injury, but at the same time, he hasn't pitched since April. So,
wow.
That's for a guy. That's why I thought like the MLB top 100 prospect list was interesting, because they jumped him 30 spots. And I get like the scouting reports from spring were just absolutely filthy that he was ready to pitch in the big leagues now in a relief role, potentially a starting role. And he struck out 50% of the batters he faced. Just unreal numbers. But he was always a very high risk profile. And his return was supposed to be in May, and it hasn't happened yet. And it just keeps getting delayed. So you're and Williams was drafted last year. Logan Allen, who I love. He was someone I was extremely high on. He was my highest rated player in their 2020 draft class. He's been shellacked 2 times in AAA since he got the bump up. Now I will say that AAA stadium is awful. So there's that, but they don't necessarily have anyone that I say like for sure is stepping in that rotation. We're kind of hoping it'd be Cody Morris, but he hasn't pitched at all this year due to injuries. Currently still on the 60-man. So on my show, I've advocated trading for like going the other way, trying to trade for a Pablo Lopez instead of trading a Shane Bieber, just because right now it's Bieber and a bunch of 5s in terms of performance this year. And there isn't necessarily anyone there's no one I would sit down and like bang the table and say he's definitely going to force his way into the rotation next year.
There was a couple of guys. I know that in terms of Joey Cantillo, who they got from San Diego, who that Akron rotation always, for whatever reason, was until the series against Erie just recently. The Akron's always given the Seawolves fit, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere they just busted. I think they scored 10 more runs twice in that series, I think. But as far as concerned on his progress, his numbers look pretty good down there. He's got a K per 9 of 12.95. Is he still a year or 2 away before we see him up in Cleveland?
He's fascinating, because when no one admits this now, when the Clevenger deal broke out, I had to defend that deal. Like 90% of the Cleveland responses were negative to that Clevenger deal, because they wanted what Seattle got. Like Taylor Trammell was the bigger name prospect, and I was like, no, you got to trust the Guardians evaluation on this. But like people wanted big names, and I was like, no, I think honestly, like Arias is the number one guy, and I go the number two guy I think is Joey Cantillo. Like he fits them to a T. And he just missed all that time last year, and they didn't protect him. Like if there was a Rule 5 draft, I thought for sure he would be selected as a left-hander. And you talk about the K rate; it's not just K rate. He also has the lowest hard hit percentage of any pitcher in Double or Triple A over the course of the season. So he's missing bats and he's not getting hit hard, and they didn't protect him in the Rule 5. Now they've protected 12 other prospects. That their roster is tight to say the least. They still have to add back in 2 players currently on the 60-day disabled list. And as much as I want to believe at some point they'll trim the fat with some of the guys who we, don't think are as good. It's hard to say who's Tito's favorite and who this team bid against themselves for Brian Shaw. Brian Shaw is already like the 4th highest paid player on the Guardians. And if he hits all of his appearance incentives, he'll be 3rd highest paid player. He'll make I think he can make up to $6 million this year, and it's not even good. It's just he has to appear in games, and we know that'll happen. And who else was bidding for Brian Shaw? The guy didn't pitch well after July 1st, and I don't know how they're going to manage this roster. But one would think like Cantillo would be one of the first guys they should try, because again, he was someone they had to add to the 40-man last year. If you're going to keep him, he's been healthy, he's pitched well. And I'll stand by one of my statements I've been on my podcast. Like the talent that has been in that rotation in Double-A is starting pitching wise, is better than half the organizations in baseball have. Like it is fundamentally unbelievable. I had Hunter Gaddis on my show earlier this year, and he's like the forgotten man in that rotation. And he has the best changeup in Cleveland's entire minor league system. It's kind of unbelievable what they've put together. Now the question is, can they transition up? We are very excited about, again, like Sam Hentges has been great in the pen, but he was supposed to be the next big thing, and it just has not worked out. So we're kind of waiting to see who can make that leap. The interesting thing about the peak Guardians pitching staff, when it was like that great grouping, it's Shane Bieber was the only guy who was internally grown. Like everyone else had been a trade. Bauer was a trade, Kluber was a trade, Carrasco was a trade, and Clevenger was a trade, though he did almost all his development in Cleveland, but it was not fully internal.
Yeah, I remember talking to Greg Young, the voice of the Erie Seawolves, and that was one of the things he was very complimentary about that Rubber Ducks rotation. And one of the last questions I want to ask Jeff about the draft coming up. Now, we've noticed this before. Is it the 2016 draft class that Cleveland made water in the wine, essentially?
That was the Bieber, Plesac, Savali draft, wasn't it? Or at least 2 of those guys, right?
So, in this Cleveland, in terms of what they're looking for this year, do you have any idea how they're going to pick their first pick? Because I know I'm not familiar with how they draft, if it's college bat heavy, or I know they used to draft a lot of high school types, correct?
Yeah, they've kind of bounced around. The funny thing of that 2016 draft too is like it got all the pub for the pitching, but you talked about Will Benson, I talked about Nolan Jones. Those were the 1st and 2nd round picks in that draft class. So it's not just the starters. They also got those 2 other players we talked about on the show. It has a chance to. It's not going to match the 19. I always get this wrong. It's either the 87 or the 89 draft where they drafted Jim Thome and Brian Giles in the same class and Curtis Lekancic and Robert Pearson. They drafted like 10 guys who made it to the big leagues and just happened to have like 2 MVP candidates in it. But it could be up there. This class, the college pitching is the worst I've ever seen in my entire life. Like it's pretty bad. The prep talent for pitching is deep, but I'm never one who loves prep pitching. It always kind of scares me. I do not take the Avila view on high school arms at all. And then prep bats, it's like awesome at the front and then kind of weak around where the Guardians are picking. Like, I love Jet Williams. I don't know if he'll get there, but it's going to be interesting. People link them in a lot of ways, but basically nothing ever comes out. Like they are really good about circling the wagons and not letting. No one had Gavin Williams in a mock to them last year, and I think honestly, knowing this organization, they're just going to see who falls. Last year we saw Frelick, McLean, and Watson fall to that zone, and all those guys were potential top 10 picks. So I think they're kind of laying in wait and seeing who's there. I do think Jet Williams is someone who fits their approach. I've heard rumors of underslat college players to come back and get a prep player later. They have not taken a college bat in the first round since Bradley Zimmer, I want to say. Yeah, because Zimmer was after Naquin. But yeah, they've gone mostly in the first round with either prep bats, prep arms, or college, not even college pitching. They really haven't. The one thing I'll say is like they went away from scouting the past 2 years and more into like analytically driven data, which makes me believe they're more likely to go college just because there's more readily available data out there. So I still think at the end of the day, there's a good chance that they go against type and take a college bat because I think, everyone knows that the Angels took only pitching last year. The Guardians had 21 picks. They took 19 pitchers. They were very much, and they took 19 college players. So they had a definite type. And I think with the depth of this class being college bats, I think we'll see that. And I also think that like it's a good catcher crop. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them come back and get one either in round 2 or in that comp round. But right now I'm leaning towards a bat for them, honestly.
Well, guys, I don't know if you guys had anything else before we move on. Chris?
No. I mean, I can see Jace Young maybe falling there to Cleveland at 16. He seems to be falling, and I can see them pouncing on that. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out for sure. That sometimes I feel like that 16 range is like a nice place to be.
Mm-hmm. No, it is. You get to get that guy who, for somewhere, thanks to a Frank Mazzucato, you get to pounce.
Yeah, there will always be a couple teams reaching on guys before you, either for money reasons or for smartest guy in the room reasons or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody's going to fall.
No, agreed. So that's why whenever anyone asks,
Susak might be there.
Yeah, Susak, I think.
They have not drafted a draft eligible sophomore in a very, very, very long time. So that's the one thing that slowed me up with like Susak and who's the other? Like Sterling Thompson. I had heard some connection with at one point in time, but I honestly can't tell you the last time they drafted a draft eligible sophomore. And I don't know if it goes against models or boards. They were rumored to really like Cole Wilcox, but obviously that didn't come together. So it's been a while since they drafted a draft eligible sophomore. So that makes me, I also think like Logan Tanner is the one to watch because they put such a huge value on defense, especially like pick 37. He kind of is one of those guys that stands out to me.
I think the last Tigers draft eligible sophomore was either Tyler Alexander or Drew Smiley. I don't know if Alexander was draft eligible sophomore or junior yet. I know they drafted him twice.
I would have sworn he was a junior, though. Maybe
he may have been. I'm pretty sure Smiley was draft eligible sophomore, but
I don't know. For some reason, I was thinking Alexander was a sophomore after you said it. So maybe I'm.
Yeah. Now
I got to look it up because
I think Smiley was a sophomore. I'm curious myself.
All right. Who could get there first?
Let's see. Let's see here. Oh crap! In Baseball Reference, I don't have his college stats.
No, that's why I use Baseball Cube.
Oh yeah, that's the best site ever. The Cube, yeah. But
I've always enjoyed the Cube. It gives me the data I want right there. Only draft eligible sophomore.
Yes.
Who was?
All right.
He Alexander was a draft eligible sophomore.
Oh, okay.
So he was just 2014, 2015, and then played for got drafted by the Tigers. So you were correct. It jogged my memory, and you said it. I was like, oh, that's right. So
that was back when you could like chalk them up for a TCU player every year, and then a Schloss
followed by a Tennessee player. So for some
Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt.
That was during when the Guardians were all about Virginia, which is just so anyone who listens to my podcast knows like I rip on that Virginia program all the time because like the third highest WAR of any player from Virginia is Mark Reynolds. Like it's just not, they produce one starting pitcher. They tell guy like it's like Mike Pappy came to the Guardians and didn't know how to use his massive legs. Like it was all like it's all pull up. It's just one approach. Go and do this.
Yeah, they were kind of the East Coast version of Stanford for a long time. Stanford had the Stanford swing, and people didn't like that. At least it didn't work out in the pros. And I don't know if Virginia's still using that, but yeah, I can't think of Daniel Lynch.
You're hoping on Lynch.
Got a bit of bumpy road.
Or not draft, or when people are with Rice, you don't draft a pitcher from Rice because you know full well that they have 150 pitches per start.
Which I still like, man, I love John Duplantier, and I still blame Rice for ruining him. Like, I think, I don't know, that's going to be my irrational love guy forever. He was so smart, and the fastball was so good. I was like, this guy should absolutely thrive in modern baseball. But yeah, TCU did not have the best rep back in that day when the Tigers were going there, grabbing some guys as well. Wasn't that where Finnegan was? The undersized lefty who Kansas City took, with their concerns with him being a TCU arm.
Well, no, they had Williamson, who's now with the Reds, and who's the other kid? Lodolo. I mean, yeah, we'll see. But anyway, we can nerd out about the draft.
Yeah, no, I have like 3 tabs open, and one of them is literally me working on writing out my big board. Like everyone's putting them on list. Like it looks like Google Excel list anymore, and I can't do that. I still have to like literally do my research, write my box on it, write my 10 sentences. Cause then like writing that out really helps crystallize it for me. And then I'm like moving guys up and down. Like I just give a massive jump. Who's the guy I just moved way up relative to everything else?
Cole Young. Oh yeah. High school.
Yeah. And then I'm the low man by far on Gavin Cross. That's the guy. People are gonna be like, what are you? So I know I've already taken so much of your time. Here's my general theory on why I'm low on Gavin Cross is guys like him who are like 50, 55 on everything, but don't have any standout tool. They always seem to fail. Like that guy who just does a little bit of everything, who's an outfielder. It works at other positions for like the Steel Walkers of the world, that guy where I feel like it's 50, 50, 50, 50, nothing that carries. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's irrational, but
no, the thing is, it does make sense. And that was a guy just by doing, I started doing a little more research recently to get ready for next week. And Cross would have been fine with me. Another guy I wish that I don't think it's going to happen that's going to fall would be Brooks Lee, the shortstop. I thought he would be, I don't know if he does or not, but a guy.
But the Tigers don't draft shortstops.
They don't.
One in the Scott Moore is the closest you've had in the last.
Well, Pacheco. Years. I mean, yeah, but Pacheco, but he's not even a shortstop. I
don't think Brooks Lee is a shortstop either. And if he falls to 12, it's because there's some serious injury concerns.
Yeah. No, they like I said, Scott Moore was the last one who was technically listed there. If you look at Baseball Draft Finder, but he was like a third baseman, I think, when he was drafted. And then it's like the only true shortstop was. There's been one true shortstop that the Tigers have taken in the first round in the whole history. And it's always my joke because like the shortstop is the quarterback of this draft, and the Tigers refuse to draft them for whatever reason. It's like it's just like a why? Why do you keep? And listen, I already said I don't like prep pitchers, so of course I wouldn't love what the Tigers did last year. I know he's pitched great, and it's its thing. I just have my own concerns with the flammability, you know what I mean? There's no such thing as a pitching prospect. But like for them to pass on all those shortstops, I was just like, come on, Tigers, they're right there for you. Just the guy that everyone and their mother heard you loved is right there. Just take him. Just take him.
It is like as much as on the Tiger Mind we report every time Chris will post a Jackson Jobe stat line. Immediately they immediately rip it, no matter what it is. He could have, well, why do you only pitch 2 innings? Well, that's the way they got it set up. But at the same time, for every that there's some jerk off who always will tweet out what Marcelo Meyer, yeah. And meanwhile, everybody Chris pointed this out too. Everybody seems to ignore that Isaac Pacheco has been a highlight. He's actually getting better defensively in Lakeland. Is he still a shortstop? No, but he has been able to handle the position better, comparatively speaking. When the first time I saw him in Lakeland, Jeff, and early in the season, he looked awful on just the simple plays, transferring the ball to second base on a double play. He booted a grounder, but he's looking better from what little TV we do have. But when I was down in Lakeland, he hammered the ball pretty well. But you're right. It's even with like second baseman, for whatever reason, the Tigers will pick a second baseman that's like a slap hitter. Like they have like a slap hitter type. I think of guys like Danny Worth. It's like always an undersized second baseman. Like Will Rhymes comes to mind too. Scott Sizemore. I mean, he was a decent sized second baseman, but they never pick a guy that's like, I know it's like a power hitting second. Not to say power hitting second baseman, but just athletic one. I guess is my.
I mean, you could move Dylan Dingler back to there. I still think he could handle second if you really had him concentrate on it.
Well, he was an outfielder. I don't know if he's ever played infield, but
I thought he played a little bit of infield in high school, not in college.
Yeah.
But I think he played like essentially. I think he was at Jackson in Ohio. I could be wrong there, but I think I feel like he played. In my mind, for some reason, he was second base, center field, catcher. Is my but I could be wrong. That just some things wedge in my head and are right, some wedge in and are completely wrong.
That's probably I didn't know much about him as a high schooler. I know he was teammates with, was it Kyle Nicholas?
I think so. That was just, again, this is me nerding out. Like that was Ohio State's like greatest recruitment class ever. Lonsway, it didn't really work out. He was academically ineligible his first year, and then the control issues. Xavier Moore got drafted in the 13th round and signed. But they had like an outfielder, like his name was Ruby, who was like a bigger name than Dingler was in that class, and he never really even played. And they got like 5 or 6 big recruits, and it unfortunately just did not come together for that. I mean, that Ohio State program is 3rd best in the state, 4th best in the state for development. It's, the name still gets them recruits, but it's interesting to watch how that plays. I don't know. It's like the Tigers, they could be set up for a nice situation. Like Cole Young, he probably will be right there if they want to go out and like. I think Jet Williams has a chance to stick at second, and I know like people will look at the fight. I get very, very. This is my rant point. I get very tired of the like, hey, he's 5'8", he can't hit for any power, and I just like. I understand swings, but I like look at an exit velocity. Look at some of the stuff like we can now get speed rating on hands. Just know like bat speed plus velocity plus launch angle. Like I don't have their launch angles. That's the one thing that would really help. But I think for a lot of guys, we look at someone who's 6'5" and we assume there's more power coming, and then we look at someone who's 5'11" and we think they can't hit for any power, and we completely ignore that like Jose Altuve and Jose Ramirez exist.
Yeah, I mean, I would have bet anything that Alec Boehm would hit for power, and eventually, but no, he's just a 6'5" skinny slap hitter. It's weird.
Yeah. Somebody in the chat mentioned on YouTube, or YouTube chat, that Devon Travis. It's a good call. Forgot about Devon Travis, who was it was a guy who
about him with the Blue Jays.
Yeah, but he rose. He was one of the first. It stood out because it was the first time where we're looking at some of the. I remember going, wait, Tigers have a second prospects that actually hit. What? Like just stood out to me. But so Jeff, what do you have coming up for Locked On Guardians? What are you doing for the draft night?
So I'm gonna cross over with our Locked On Prospects guy Lindsay we're gonna do kind of like a 30-40 minute after show. I'm gonna sit there on YouTube and stream it. I've decided. I did it a year ago or 2 years ago by myself. I did it last year with a terrible human being. I'm blanking on his name because I'm like 40 now and there's too many names in there and they don't all stick. The former host of Locked On Prospects. He's a great dude.
Guy. Yeah, that great.
He does a lot of great work. I'm a terrible human being. But it was fun and we did it for 3 hours. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to sit here. I'm going to watch it anyway. So I'm going to sit here and stream and I'm going to talk for like 3 hours probably by myself, just about all the picks, the prospects, my take. I'll have my own big board posted because again, I do it very different. I do. I'm not going to, like Gavin Cross is 17th on my board. I'll just put that out there now. Like I'm not going to, I always go back to when I wrote for Scout and it's like, I kept being slow to move up Benintendi because I always had him like 10 spots higher than everyone else. And then by the time we got to the draft day, other people had moved him past where I had him. Like I just needed to believe in what I had seen and what I had known and not think that consensus knows better than me on everything. Often they do, but not every time. So it's about confidence and things like that. So I'm gonna have my own live stream and I'll be doing a ton there. And I'm peppering Locked On Guardians podcast with just draft content between now and then as much as I can, especially because the product on the field has been a little bit depressing since then, as Tigers fans got to see.
definitely, and hopefully we'll be able to cross because we're also doing a live show. We have a bunch of like serious not serious. Sorry, we have a bunch of guests. So hopefully at some point we can cross the streams, as they would say, Ghostbuster
awesome.
style. Yeah. So, but yeah, Jeff Ellis, you can find him on Twitter, and I'm blanking out on your name, Jeff MLB Draft.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Sorry. The same thing. I'm 40, and I'm all of a sudden like just what I stood on Google.
Connect.
Yeah. But yeah, always a great follow, and his baseball knowledge is uncanny to none. And again, if you ever want to talk some non-baseball stuff, board games the way to go, whatever you want to talk to Jeff about.
Have a few back there you can see.
Yeah.
They made Locked On said that they wanted some more like something. So I have I have my baseball highlights game. I have bottom of the ninth. I have fantasy baseball. So I put all my baseball board games.
Nice.
Front and center.
I like the map too, actually.
Yeah, my wife got that for me. It's like all the stadiums. Like it even has like, for instance, I have the sticker up because I've been to both, but like, it mentions like Old Tiger Stadium, which is still like, I think we've talked about that when I've been on the show before. Like going there as a kid is still a very fond memory. Playing Ken Griffey Jr. baseball, and then the cages out there gave them original look. It's the same reason why I love Kansas City. I love Kauffman Stadium to this day. It's like Old Tiger and Kauffman Stadium stood out. They were different. They were original. They were fun. So
nice.
Awesome. All right. Well, Jeff, we'll talk to you soon. And thanks again for coming on. We appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Jeff.
Have a great one.
Jeff. You too. All right. Jeff Ellis joining us from Locked On Guardians. It's a guy he's a regular on the podcast. So we want to talk some Indians, the series. And by the way, we were, in case you guys didn't notice the subtle no-hitter alerts I was doing, right now the Tigers have it's the bottom of the seventh right now, and Detroit's up 1-0 as Bo Brisky's just been removed. His final line on the night is 6 1/3 innings, 2 hits, 1 walk, and 4 strikeouts. Again, Dylan Cease has been a beast for the White Sox, but he made one mistake, and that was to Baez. As far as Cease goes, 6 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, and 8 strikeouts for him so far as Tigers. And again, the Tigers are never going to figure out Dylan Cease. So, but in terms of the offensive side of things, Robbie Grossman with a hit and Jonathan Scope, and that's really about it. He's been mowing down the lineup pretty quickly.
I'll tell you, Brisky threw a couple of wonderful sinkers in the first couple innings. He got Abreu and he got Luis Robert. Gorgeous pitches, buried him inside on their hands. They could do nothing with it. I know I'm a broken record about pitching inside, but man, he was owning the inner half, and that was really evident that he was keeping them in check. That was fun to watch.
Yeah, I think I haven't looked at the stats, but it's probably his best start as a big leaguer. 6 1/3. I guess he's still responsible for the runner on first right now, but 6 1/3 scoreless. Yeah, really impressive. The White Sox aren't the world's best offense, but still, to go out there and outduel Dylan Cease is definitely something.
Yeah, and the one thing about this whole entire about the White Sox that is, of course, Jose Abreu with the single with the second hit of the day. It's just Jose Abreu, 27 home runs. He's batted .310 against the Tigers lifetime. So it is impressive what he'd be able to do. I really like that Brisky kid. Yes, YouTube comment. Yes, he is. He's out there. He had runners on. Yeah, he had Harrison at third and was able to get him out. So, but Dylan Cease is just pitching masterclass. So, but yeah, that's in terms of Tiger news this week. I wanted to kind of address a couple of things real quick before we get into our segments and make it quick segments because I did not realize you were so sick, Chris. So I apologize. I don't want to keep your.
I didn't tell you, so it's not a big deal. I just am kind of it's just a classic cold. I'm like, I start off with a sore throat that I hate, and now I suddenly am just dripping. I'm just dripping.
Well, when I saw you with the coffee mug, I was alarmed because I'm like, oh, he usually drinks a Coke Zero right about now, and pick up
that's just green tea. Just trying to switch it up.
So where I want to start with was some of Avila's comments to the press in regards to some of the stuff. So, I'll start with you in terms of what you saw. He spoke to the media. The one day, by the way, I don't go to a game. That's how it is, but whatever. Anyway,
yeah, what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah, but I know the way he was handling the Eduardo Rodriguez questions, I thought was fine because It is eerie. It is starting to be eerie that we have not heard anything from his agent nor him at all. He hasn't returned anything. So
I thinking back, I was just trying to. When have you ever heard that a player has just kind of dropped off the map and gone silent on a team? You don't hear that very often, so it is very strange. What could he say? I mean, it does him no good to speculate, really, other than to be honest and say we haven't heard back, and it's something that we're worried about, we're monitoring. Hopefully, something emerges on that one pretty soon. But it was very bizarre, and the bad part is it allows people on Twitter and everywhere else to just keep openly speculating about lots of weird stuff. It doesn't do anybody any good. So I don't know.
And Chris, I mean, what was your whole thought about that?
Well, I actually have that as my ugly, so I can just do that right now if you want.
Yeah, what's up?
Well, specifically the Eduardo Rodriguez thing, like we've talked before, we are a player-friendly podcast, and we like to talk about players as people. So having like personal issues is totally fine. We accept that. We've heard stories about Tigers players dealing with stuff like that before. I believe it wasn't Maglio, whose wife was going through like cancer treatment, and he was having a terrible season, and everybody was getting on him, and nobody knew that. And so and you feel awful when you hear stuff like that. And people are people. They've got issues. They've got depression. They've got marital things. The bizarre part of it is that he just has not contacted them at all. I think everybody would totally understand if he says, you know what, I just can't think about baseball right now. Just say that. That's all you have to say. But he hasn't contacted the Tigers. His agent won't respond to the press inquiries. So unless like he and his wife are patching things up with like a month-long ayahuasca bender in Peru, I don't get it. And he's making it so like there's rampant speculation because I understand people have emotional issues and life issues, but it's not that hard to just tell your agent, hey, tell them this. That's all you have to do. And he hasn't. So at least if we're to believe Hinch and Avila, I don't know what else to really say about it. But yeah, it's turning into kind of an ugly situation. I guess what has helped it out is, number one, he wasn't pitching all that well for the Tigers. They found some decent pitching from nowhere, and the Tigers aren't any good. So it's not like suddenly affecting their playoff race. He's just kind of disappeared, out of sight, out of mind. But
Right.
It's definitely like it's bordering. I put it as my ugly because it feels kind of ugly at this point.
And Christopher had a question in YouTube chat. Do you guys think the Tigers might be considering attempting to avoid his contract? Honestly, I don't. I can't say anything to that. I don't think they are. I think that again, what he's going through personally. Go ahead, Chris.
They're not paying him right now, so it's not like a huge like he elected to do this. He's on the restricted list. They're not paying him, so it's not a big deal. I'm sure that they considered all their options, and who knows what's actually going on. And if he doesn't want to come back, then yeah, I'm sure they would look for a way to avoid it or get insurance or whatever. But I think their preferred course of action would be that he's fine, his personal life is good, and he comes back a healthy and productive member of the team. But they're a business organization, so they've got to consider everything, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I can't recall a contract being voided. I'm sure the union would fight that.
Was it Aaron Boone? Didn't Aaron Boone's contract get voided after hurting his knee playing basketball?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
I remember that.
That's true. But, that's one example. There's just not that many. I think Chris is right. I think they're not paying him, so you ride it out, and hopefully you get him back.
Yeah. That's all. Again, it's one of those things where we don't know. And by the way, I did not know that about Maglio's wife. I did not know that until you just said that now. Really.
Well, maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought that was the case. Was that he was having a terrible season, and it turned out his wife was dealing with something like a severe illness, and it just he was a professional, and rather than take time off, decided to try to help the team.
No,
maybe baseball would help him.
Christopher, he said that he only asked about the speculation on the Bless You Boys message board. And no, it's a fair question. It's a good question too. And so, but for me, I don't know, like the way Avila handled the press conference this week and impromptu about the whole thing. Personally, I think they're just waiting to see what happens, and then from there make a decision. But I'm not gonna say he's souring Detroit or anything. That's not the vibe I'm getting. So, but no, Christopher, thank you for the question. That was a really good question. We appreciate it. Top of the eighth right now. Tigers still up 1-0. Alex Lang just blowing away White Sox hitters, and we got classic pitchers duel, which has been a nice surprise because with the way the offense clicked against the Guardians, Cody Clemens has been hitting better. I'm still not gonna. Lynn Henning prophecy is trying to come true. So that's a good one too. Sidney Potson, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Good call there. That's a dig deep one.
The sweaty, wasn't he? Where was he? He was from the West Indies, wasn't he? Where was he from? I just remember being like just a general sweaty gentleman.
Was he from Curacao?
I don't think he was from Curacao. I think he was from like the Bahamas.
Could be.
I have to look it up.
Yeah, but again, that's
Victor Reyes walked.
What?
Sorry. Sorry to interrupt. We interrupt this broadcast with a Victor Reyes walk.
So what else did Avila chat about? I mean, what do we need to Torkelson a little bit?
Yeah, and again, just kind of saying the guys are not hidden, and that's just really about it. And that he doesn't like losing, just kind of saying that stuff. But
yeah, I mean, he basically said everybody's to blame, right?
Yeah,
he said I'm to blame, the players to blame, everybody's to blame. Sidney Hudson was from Aruba, by the way. Aruba. That's Harry Carey's favorite country.
Yeah.
Aruba.
But yeah, that's in terms of other elements of news this week. The congratulations to Wilmer Flores and Dylan Dingler, who were named to the MLB Futures game. And what's funny was, so there is something to be there. It's a great honor. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, people were kind of maybe perhaps scratching their heads about Dingler because based off his numbers. Chris, did you want to kind of answer that question, or not answer that question, but kind of?
Oh, well, it's a different version of the kind of problem teams run into with the big league all-star game. Every team needs to have at least one player. There's 50 players in the futures game, so 20 teams get 2 and 10 teams get 1. So they need to figure all that out, and then they also need to find players at every position. And sometimes it's, are there 3 or 4 catchers, American League prospects better than Dylan Dingler? Maybe not. He's probably certainly among like the top 10 American League catching prospects, and so then it's a matter of like, which prospects we feel from which organizations deserve it, and sometimes it's a matter of which the organizations have to allow these players to go. So like I don't know if Gabriel Moreno is still up with the Blue Jays right now.
He is. So
yeah, I mean he probably would have gone, but since he's with the Blue Jays, he's not there, so that creates room for Dingler. And it's not that and he was a highly drafted guy, top 40 pick. Well regarded, been a top 100 type prospect on Fangraphs, so at least considered a solid prospect. So it makes sense from that perspective. And I'll just say the overall the futures game class this year is not terribly exciting to me. I think it's because there's so many awesome, good young players in the big leagues right now, like Bobby Witt and Julio Rodriguez and Riley Green and Torkelson. All these big names are kind of. So it's going to be an interesting game for some of these younger guys to pop up. Everybody's talking about Jackson Churio right now. Ellie De La Cruz hit 3 home runs today. I don't know if you saw one of the highlights, his 3rd home run of the game against the Whitecaps.
Oh, yes.
It hit the dude in the head, and the guy just went out. I was like, oh, man.
Oh, yeah, I was coming home, and I got the alert, and I was going to my phone. I was like, what the? Oh, man, that was.
Yeah, it was tough. You got to keep your head on a swivel out there in the outfield.
Yeah,
but, I mean, he's got 18 home runs and 25 steals. As a 6'4" shortstop. It's like he's going to be super fun to watch.
Yeah, he's on the 40-man roster already, isn't he?
I think so. I don't know.
I think he is. I for whatever reason that stands out to me because you don't see a lot of high A players on 40-man rosters, and I think he was on there.
It's time for Rogelio and Chris to go inside the numbers.
All right, it's time for inside the numbers. All right, Uper, you lead off. What is your inside the number?
We're very simple today. My inside the number is 30. Aaron Judge, second player ever to have multiple seasons of 30-plus home runs before the All-Star break, which I thought was pretty impressive. Can you guys name the other?
Sammy Sosa?
No.
Okay.
Mark McGwire.
Wait, hold on. Wait, hold on. We put some qualifiers on this thing.
Reggie Jackson.
Shut up!
Sorry.
All right. Has this happened in the last 30 years?
Yes.
Okay. All right. There we go.
Chris the two guys that Chris just named, roughly era. Era is pretty good.
Okay. So then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to guess it's a player out of the National League, isn't it?
No. Well, no. Partially, but mostly AL.
Jim Thome?
No.
Barry Bonds?
No.
He never played in the AL.
Oh, no, yeah, that's right. No, you said partially.
You said McGuire and who?
Sosa.
Ken Griffey Jr.
There you go.
That makes sense.
Yep.
So, wait a minute. When did he retire? Oh, man. Okay. All right. Well, 30. Okay, I'm an idiot. Okay. Yeah. I'm an idiot.
I don't believe he never hit. What was his single season high? 57? 56?
Ooh, I want to say 56 sounds right, but it might have been 57.
That's kind of wild, though. Yeah, I mean, Aaron Judge is doing something. All right. Let's see. 56. Griffey hit 56 2 years in a row, 97 and 98. Not bad.
Not bad. Not too shabby. All right, Chris, what is your insider number?
Excuse me. Mine is 122. Also kind of simple tonight. It's based on a tweet from our account last night, but I still think it bears mentioning. That is the Detroit Tigers' weighted runs created plus as a team since Riley Green joined June 18th. It's not counting tonight when they have 3 hits and 4 walks and 1 run. But yeah, it was through 17 games after Riley Green joined. It was the 4th best WRC plus in all of baseball, behind only Houston, the Dodgers, and Milwaukee. That's not all Riley Green, of course, because like Eric Haas has been great. Javier Baez has had his hot streaks. Clemens and Grossman and Reyes and Cabrera are all playing well too. So it's an above average offensive team all of a sudden. Notwithstanding the first 14 weeks of the season. But yeah, and it certainly doesn't hurt to add a player to the lineup who's going to get on base at like a 37% rate, like Green is. Although tonight he hasn't gotten on base, but he does have the hardest hit ball of the game. So I don't know. He's always doing something. Like you just feel like sometimes the results aren't there, but the process is fantastic with him.
Yeah, trust the process with that.
Yep.
Can help myself. So my inside number was one I tweeted out the other day, and it's something that I think it's an impressive stat, but for whatever reason people may not think that, and I don't know. But so let's see if I can find it here. So here it is. Miguel Cabrera's until tonight, coming into today, his 70 hits are the most for any player through 70 games that is 39 years or older. And the title list includes Doc Kramer, who hit 74 hits at this time in 1945. Al Kaline in his final season, 74 hits. Darrell Evans, 59 hits, 1986. And at the age of 40, had 58 hits. And the Victor Martinez had 60 hits in 2018. But what's interesting is the one that finished with a higher batting average of all that. It's not glamorous, but it would be Doc Kramer, 275 for a full season. He played in 141 games. So Darrell Evans, by the way, who I got to give a lot of credit to Darrell Evans. At the age of 39 and 40, he played in 150 games. And he was also playing multiple positions too. I mean, in 87, he was playing. He had to play third because the Tigers decided for whatever reason they wanted to trade Darnell Coles, and they had all these issues at third base, as I recall. So Darrell Evans had to play first and third at the age of 39 because Spark Anderson, God bless his soul, but sometimes he didn't, for whatever reason, was just hell bent on playing his veterans no matter what. Yeah, you thought I was going to say something else cringeworthy, but no. So let's not. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, that is my inside number. It's 78 because I think that to me that's impressive. And here we are. He's in the top 10 in the American League in batting average, and he's slapping singles. And there was someone on Twitter that was like, "Oh, who cares?" Like He's 39 years old, you idiot. What the hell's wrong with you?
He is making $35 million, but no, I mean, I gave him a C. I did a report card today. I wanted to give him a B, but I was trying to be consistent with actual, like not taking.
I thought your grade was fair. I thought your grade was fair, Chris. Honestly, I thought.
But I compared him to a tennis player. It's. I've never seen a guy with such just impressive bat control. It's like he just knows how to manipulate his bat to get the ball to go where he wants. It's like it's kind of remarkable to watch. It's a very strange hitting profile with an isolated power of like 0.065. I was looking at like similar seasons, and I found like Wade Boggs and Tony Gwynn. He's hitting kind of like them, but so
when you think about Wade Boggs and Tony Gwynn, bat control, incredible batsmen. Just left-handers, but that's almost not surprising when you think about it. That's really interesting. You found that.
Yeah,
he had an at bat yesterday. Again, I love the singles. I have no problems with it. He's at the end of his career. He's doing what he can do, and it's fun to watch. But he hit one just short of the warning track yesterday to the opposite field. And to me, as soon as he hit it, my mind flashed back to 2012, and that ball is gone. No question about it. And now he's 15 feet shy of the wall. That's kind of the difference in baseball. That's the difference between 30 and 38.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, sorry. It's been a really strong illustration of how great of a hitter. Like, we didn't need to see that really, but how great of a hitter he was. He was just a great hitter who was strong enough to hit 30 plus home runs every year. And now he's a great hitter with no legs.
Yep.
He's Captain Dan or Lieutenant Dan, no legs.
Oh.
God, that was bad. I'm sorry. That was
Lieutenant Mickey. I can get it.
Yeah, but there's a lot of younger people in the audience going, "Why did he do a Forrest Gump drop there?"
The good.
Oh, that's good.
The bad.
Oh, that's bad.
And the ugly.
All right, it's time for the good and the bad, the ugly. And for the sake of saving Chris's voice, I'm going to go back to Uper. Normally I would go to, I alternate, but this time I'm going to go to Uper again for this.
Sounds good. My good, I think this might be the second time this month I used Rob Manfred in the good category. I know, is that amazing? I like the idea that somewhere in the CBA they buried the thing that he can name legends to the All-Star game. I have no problem with that. The All-Star game doesn't count for anything anymore. So other than to have fun and put on a show for baseball. So if they want to have one guy for each league who's kind of ceremonially there, I think it's great. Whether that guy plays or not, doesn't matter. But that might be a nice way to honor people as they kind of phase out of their All-Star type careers. So I thought that was good to hear that. Bad, Chris Sale. More bizarre behavior. Wrecks a television over a minor league rehab start. Acting like a nut. I hate to say it. He just looked crazy over walking a guy in the fifth inning of a rehab start. When you couple that on with his scissors and the jerseys a few years ago, which, by the way, I loved those uniforms. I thought those were cool, the dark blues in Chicago. And when he threatened to boycott when Adam LaRoche was bringing his son to spring training, the guy's just different. And I don't get it. Now, I guess he did, he popped $6,000 for the meal. He bought a new TV for the clubhouse. Hopefully he also tipped the guy who had to clean up for him. Well, I'm going to assume he did. So I think he knows he's an idiot, but he sure goes out of his way to prove it a lot. So, and
it's fun to me that, like, I remember playing Little League with kids like that who would get super upset and like kick up dirt on the way back out to the field. And it's just, It's kind of fun to know that some of those kids just never grew up.
Yeah, exactly right. But luckily he could throw 96, so that helped him out a lot. My ugly is a guy I'm actually hoping the Tigers draft in about the 6th to 8th round, I figure. Maybe even.
Okay. I thought you were going to go with Harold Kumar again there.
No, I'm trying to stay Kumar free.
I said Harold Kumar.
Just for you guys, I'm trying to stay Kumar free. I didn't ask Jeff about Kumar. I thought about it, but I didn't do it. But so anyway, Zach Maxwell.
Oh, Georgia Tech
reliever. Okay. Guy throws 98. He's had some success, had a little bit of a rough year this year, finished strong against in the NCAA playoffs against Tennessee. I saw him pitch, had a great outing. Outing before he was good too. The dude is 6'7", but he has the dad bod of dad bods. Okay.
This guy's name is Zach what?
Maxwell.
Maxwell. Yeah.
He's got himself, he's got the double chin. He's got a big gut. Got some love handles. He's got the whole thing going. He looks like a dude who just mowed his lawn. He's sitting in his garage having a beer, and the phone rings and they say, "Hey, we need you to pitch tonight." Okay, so I love the guy. He's ugly, but he can throw 98 and he's 6'7". There's got to be something you can make out of that. So Zach Maxwell is my name to watch right around the 8th round for the Tigers.
All right. You know what? Go ahead, Chris.
I was just saying, I bet he doesn't make it that far. I bet he gets drafted in the 5th round, just based on. I remember Joe Boyle was this big. I mean, they weren't sloppy, but like big, hard throwing college pitchers who couldn't throw strikes. Joe Boyle went in the 5th round. Eric Sarantolo went in the 5th round. Like pro staffs salivate at that sort of thing. Like we're gonna put this guy in fat camp.
They're salivating over this right here.
Yeah,
he's been reliever only.
Right. I mean, I can't talk, but
he's never started a game.
Yeah.
I mean, Lance Lynn isn't out there looking like a GQ model.
Is this him right here?
Yeah.
I'm telling you. No, the other night this is an old picture or something. He was looking bigger.
Really? All right. Well, I'll have to find that. Yeah. But there's a piece of audio I found about Rob Manfred, by the way. Let's see here.
And well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And then the true meaning of Christmas.
Yeah. So, yeah, Rob Manfred's heart grew 3 sizes that day. All right, Chris, what is your good and bad, the ugly?
So I already did my ugly, which was the Eduardo Rodriguez situation. My good is going to be the Houston Astros scouting and player development system.
Gold standard.
I mean, we've all kind of touched on the Astros in the last couple of years several times. I think we've all had Yordan Alvarez as our good at one point or the other. They won today to move to 54-28, so they're on pace for 107 wins this year. Would be their 4th 100-plus win season in the last 5 full seasons, not counting the COVID year. And their down year was 95 wins. And I was thinking about all the players that they've lost over that time. Carlos Correa is gone. George Springer, Garrett Cole, Dallas Keuchel. He sucks now, but he was a Cy Young winner for him. Zach Greinke, he's old now, but he was good for them. Justin Verlander, they lost for a season. Lance McCullers, they lost for a season. Jake Odorizzi, they lost for this year. Just no problem at all for them.
Yeah.
They replaced him with Jeremy Pena, a 3rd rounder. He's having a better season than Carlos Correa at shortstop. Their center fielder is Chas McCormick, a 21st rounder, who's not been great, but he's like a 1-WAR player already this year.
Doesn't Chas McCormick sound like a B actor name?
It does.
Yeah,
You're like you couldn't get Rock Hudson, so you got Chas McCormick. And then their rotation this year, it's Justin Verlander, and then it's Framber Valdez, who they got for $10,000, Christian Javier, who they got for $10,000, Luis Garcia, who they got for $20,000, and Jose Urquidy, who they spent $100,000 on. They've gotten 48 starts from those dudes in 5+ WAR for about $140,000. That's the cost of like an 11th rounder. We've talked, like, the Tigers have made some modest improvements in player development. We're seeing some progress there, but there's just light years between them and Houston. And my ultimate point there would be when the Tigers traded for a complex level player when they were rebuilding, they got Jose King, who's in West Michigan now. I think he leads the team in strikeouts. When the Astros traded for a complex level player, they got Yordan Alvarez. They got Yordan Alvarez for half a season of Josh Fields.
Wow.
He is MVP level talent this year.
About that.
So you're saying you want to hire Jeff Luna?
Yeah, I mean, you do have to deal with all the terrible stuff that came along, but it's just so hard to not appreciate all the innovations that they made and the way that they were able to find all these good players. I mean, the number of things they've done that have been copied now is I don't know, 4 or 5 different things.
It's amazing.
You guys are familiar with the Star Wars canon, the recent Star Wars canon, right? The last trilogy, a little bit.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
All right, so you know how the Emperor came out of nowhere and then took back over in the last movie, like just because we expected that to. Apparently, what if Jeff Lowe is sitting around somewhere in between Houston and Detroit, right? You know, and he's he comes in these rooms like a ghost. He comes in and is still running he could be running the Astros from behind the scenes. He's still doing it all. And all the guys are speaking for him are just clones of himself or something, but they've just been genetically re-altered or something like that. I know it sounds really stupid and far-fetched and probably not real at all, but imagine him coming somewhere like he started coming, like all of a sudden you see him around town in Detroit and people don't even know who he is because I mean, realistically, unless you know baseball, if Jeff was sitting next to you while you're pissing in a bathroom, are you really know that's Jeff Luell? No. So
I would not know.
No, I wouldn't either. And so, anyway, my point is, somewhere in the shadows, he's lurking. Yeah.
So
you got to believe with that success, some club is going to give him a chance someday.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he got. Did Torkelson get a hit?
Yeah, Torkelson got an RBI. All right,
nice pinch hitter there. That's huge. Good for him. Maybe that's Hinch working his mind games there. You're not playing today. You know what? You're coming in here in the 9th inning. There's a pinch hit situation you got to get. I feel like that was Major League Baseball. It's almost like the old show cause penalty in college football or college sports. Like if you're going to hire this guy, you have to prove to us why it's worth it, and they have to prove why they've changed. And Luna was never. He always claimed that he was railroaded. Basically, he was never remorseful at all, and so I don't think that's ever going to work. But who knows?
Yeah,
could be.
No, go ahead, Ryan.
No, I was going to say that, and you're right. When you don't show any kind of remorse, that's going to happen. I mean, who was the guy that was banned permanently by the Braves guy?
Oh, John Cabalella.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't get banned, or Jeff is not in that territory yet, but
that 108.7 miles per hour off the bat for Torkelson, probably one of his hardest hits all season. So
was that the left? Was that the left or right, or was that left?
I think they said let's see, a sharp line drive to left field.
Oh, duh! It's right there. I'm looking right at it. It's been a long day. All right. So
I'll just my bad. I'm sticking in the American League West. My bad is the Angels offense, and I don't know how this keeps happening. But over the last 2 weeks, the Angels have been the worst offense in baseball. 68 WRC plus. Basically, over the time, the Tigers have been one of the better teams. This despite Shohei Ohtani being amazing, with hitting 250 with 2 doubles, 3 homers, 9 walks. Mike Trout is just 7 for 39 with 5 walks, 4 of which were intentional, in 17 strikeouts. They've been averaging under 3 runs a game, and they're 11-22 since the beginning of June, which is tied with the Reds for the worst record in baseball, ahead of only the A's. By comparison, the Tigers are 15-17 in the same span. So it's almost like the Angels have some of that Avila curse in them, I think.
I think I saw somewhere Mike Trout struck out more than Baez this year.
Yeah, his percentage is higher. And Mike Trout has always struck out at a fairly high rate, but he's always backed it up with like a 15% walk rate and power. So
my good this week is Shohei Ohtani, because he's done something on the pitching side that only a few people have, and that is in his last 4 starts, he's not allowed to run. He is not allowed to run. So going back to June 16th, in his last 3 starts, no starter has gone not allowed to run and have 10 or more strikeouts, and he's tied with a certain I forgot how many pitchers have done it, but is against Kansas City, 8 innings, 2 hits, 13 strikeouts. Against the White Sox, 5 2/3 innings, 5 hits, but struck out 11. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And in his last start against the Marlins, that's where the streak broke. Unfortunately, the streak broke there. 7 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, and 10 strikeouts. But still, it's an impressive run. And with all the crap sandwich that is the Angels this season, he is dominating as a pitcher. So you kind of wonder at one point if he just focus. I mean, this is him just doing both roles. And he's doing this at a high level. Again, Chris, you've brought this up. I know you brought this up too. And there's a lot of fans out there. How is this not headline news every single day on some platform? This is amazing. Like, I can't. Anyway,
it's just unfortunate that their team sucks, and they play on the West Coast in the middle of the night.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's something that no one has seen before, and we probably won't ever see again. Like, I can't imagine a guy pitching at a Cy Young level and hitting at an MVP level at the same time in 2022 when baseball is harder than it's ever been. It's nuts.
And we never get to see a whole lot of it, but he can run like the wind too.
Yeah, he's one of the fastest. I think he has the fastest home to first base time in baseball.
Yeah.
And here again, it's a waste, unfortunately, that he's in LA. I mean, I'm sorry to say that, but I'm actually sorry. I'm not sorry at all, but
he needs to. I mean, his contract is coming up. I'm sure the Angels are going to give him or try to give him as much money as possible, but he needs to get out of there. He needs to go to the Dodgers. He needs to go to the Yankees. He needs to go somewhere.
As much as I hate to even say it, for the good of the sport, he would be amazing in New York. I mean, put him there.
Look,
I know.
I understand, but here's the thing: I'm not even doing this as a Midwestern. If he was with the Dodgers, I'd be fine with it. Dodgers or Seattle, that's fine. The thing about New York, I think he would fit fine in New York, but New York fans I'm so annoyed with the Yankees fans half the time because it's just this sense of entitlement drives me nuts.
Yeah.
It is so annoying. And I think it's because sometimes I'm on Twitter too much for what we do, and it just gets amplified. And I'm sure not all Yankee fans are idiots or anything like that, but you also have the advent of one of the biggest media organizations out there, John Boy Media, which is talking Yankees. And so it's now amplified even more. And so therefore, if Ohtani comes, it would just be constantly, like everybody's just getting, So, and you know what? Christopher made a good point in the YouTube chat. If Ohtani played for the Dodgers, the media would be all over him. And I think you're absolutely right about that. So
just be on a good team. I would agree with him. I think Christopher's right. That team is just so bad. But how about this? Would the Ricketts spend enough money to bring him to the Cubs?
Hell no. Right now they're working on their look. If the Cubs, if they brought in Ohtani for the Cubs, I would be shocked. It just seems like they've been cutting payroll, but then they're announcing they're building some sort of like gambling facility near Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
Wrigleyville, rather.
I think there's a sports book attached to Wrigley Field.
Yeah, which is just, if anything, that's just you're just telling people just go get poor. And yeah, anyway, I don't know. So my bad, and it involves as far as it goes with the Pirates, and the Pirates have been one of those teams that have been sticking around. They're like Baltimore. People have been pleasantly surprised with the play of both teams and what have you. But this last couple of weeks, the Pirates have kind of in a funk a little bit. And I look at a guy like Diego Castillo, who has since June 16th, I just kind of go as a baseline. He's got a strikeout rate of 35%. And in terms of like however, it's bad. It's good and bad. Because also he's got his ISO is 395, so he's got 5 home runs right now. Him and Jack Swilinski it's been their feast or famine between those two. So the reason why I put the good and bad, because they both, those stats are kind of polar opposites to each other in the sense of how much but it's also becoming a new norm. We have talked about this before, strikeouts, but it seems a little excessive. And my ugly this week involves there's a Crystal or somebody mentioned the World Baseball Classic that came out. And the reason why it's ugly is because I thought there'd be more attention about it. I didn't know anything about it until the Discord channel. So props to the Discord channel for mentioning it. And the reason why I think it's ugly is because I think that for remembering how a big deal they made this, it seems like baseball has not marketed as well at all. And the marketing on it's terrible. Cuba, by the way, their draws, like they got Italy and a couple other teams. I think the Netherlands, and I forgot the other two teams. It was just like you're basically walking in. But I think that the way they're handling, again, it's a combination of how they're handling the marketing and promotion of this. I think it's ugly and it's ridiculous. I think the World Baseball Classic deserves a little more respect and should be. Listen, there was again, Discord channel is a small sample size, but there's people seem to be stoked for it. I'm stoked for it because it just gives you an opportunity to see the best in the world, and they still have an opportunity to do that. But I just still think how you've had this now for almost 10 years, and you still not screw it up. If not longer, it's anyway.
There's something fun about tournament style baseball. It's part of the reason I like the College World Series too, and it's just a different atmosphere when you're playing for a team like that. You're playing for your country, and we can see Ian Kinsler manage his Team Israel. I was thinking the other day, wasn't it Brad Osmus that let Ian Kinsler manage the final game of the season one year?
I believe it was, yeah.
So maybe Ian Kinsler down the road, your next Tigers manager. We'll see. I think he's in a front office for the Padres right now. But
he's taking. So he's taking the Brad Osmus resume.
I think so. Yeah.
World Baseball Classic. I love that first week of it every year, where you get up at about 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. and there's a ball game going on in Japan.
Yeah,
love that. That is the highlight of that tournament for me. Also, one of the best still photos in baseball for the last decade was Adam Jones stealing that home run in San Diego with all those fans in USA gear around him. That was an iconic photo that baseball should plaster everywhere.
Gregory Soto's not making things easy. He's got two runners on here in the bottom of the ninth as he just walked Jake Pollock and Tim Anderson, another notorious Tiger killer, had a single. So
anybody else?
Luis Robert.
No problem.
It will be interesting to see if this is a live with them or die with them inning, or if this is a we're bringing in Will Vest inning, which we've seen. We've seen both from Hinch this year.
We'll see what happens here. So we'll keep it posted as that happens. So, Chris, what are the questions this week? Because I think we should wrap this up.
Excuse me. Yeah, we just got a couple questions. We got Deadly Ninja Bees. He said, does Erod own a phone? Is he done in Detroit? We've already kind of discussed that. Teams like Toronto need help in the arm bar, and who would you target? Who would you trade? That sounds like a question for Rogelio.
Yeah, so we also got a question from Nick Splain yesterday, too, I think.
I didn't see that one, but...
Oh, yeah, I think I liked it. Anyway, okay, so as far as Toronto goes, I think that one of the things, and I'm working on a piece right now, I have the piece pretty much set, and I like the fact that if they go for a catcher, because Jake Rogers is not a for sure thing. Jansen has shown an improvement in power, and he's been, I think it was one of the leaders in terms of walk rates among catchers, and he's a good receiver. He's known for his glove, and I think it'd be upgrade, but then upgrade catcher. Tucker Barnhart has been hitting better as of late, but I don't know. And then there's a guy that they called up for short relief, and I thought that it was kind of an addition, but he was once a top 30 prospect, and he put up some good numbers in Double-A New Hampshire, and then before he got the call up to Buffalo, and then posted an area of 0.66, and that's Max Castillo, and he's a guy that has primarily been a starter, but he could fit in the back end of a rotation if they decide to do it. It depends on who Toronto wants too. Toronto's got a couple of interesting pitching prospects too that may not, but they might want to keep pitching, because if we're just mentioning earlier, if the draft is this bad, this could be if you think about it this way, I didn't even think about this just now. If the draft is that bad for pitching, that might affect the trade line a little bit, don't you think?
I mean, it's possible. I think that teams probably wouldn't be going to the draft. Every now and then there's the advanced college arm that how many runs did Gregory Soto just give up?
Oh,
That's one, oh, it's a double. So now the go-ahead run is in scoring position. Yeah, I don't think teams go into the draft looking to address their major league pitching.
No, that's true. But I mean, in terms of depth, I'm sorry. I was just mainly.
Well, so I agree and disagree with what Jeff said about the draft. It's the worst crop of healthy college pitchers I've ever seen. But there are a ton of really interesting injured college pitchers, and somebody's going to get a steal in like the second and third round. Maybe the Tigers. Maybe they get Peyton Pallette from Arkansas with the 51st pick, and he ends up being a frontline starter. But yeah, I mean, I think Toronto needs bullpen help pretty clearly, and the Tigers happen to have a really good bullpen. Gregory Soto's evening notwithstanding.
Yeah.
This is going to be a real Houdini situation here.
Yeah, and now he's going up against Jose Abreu.
Oh, he's not going up against Jose Abreu.
Oh, he's not. Who's coming in?
I don't know, but that's the second mound visit here, according to my game day app. So,
Todd Jones.
Unfortunately, due to copyright issues, we cannot stream the game. So, I mean, I have the game on. I did have the game on my phone for a little while, but either way,
it says he doubled on a ground ball, deflected by Spencer Torkelson. I wonder how deflected that was. I assume it was a rocket shot. No, it was 74 miles per hour and 67 feet. So, well.
Do you guys think they can get Jordan Groshans from Toronto for a reliever? And do they want him? And his power hasn't showed up yet.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy who's, I think, the star has faded there a bit. Maybe I could see that happening. Where if they want to,
he still hits 300.
Yeah, it's just he's kind of like suddenly, he was a shortstop, but always considered probably more of a third baseman. I remember him hitting for power in the. I think he had a home run in the Perfect Game Classic. And I was like, man, this dude, he rakes. And then he got drafted a little bit higher than most people expected. Oh, it looks like Soto is staying. And so yeah, I mean, I think he's a guy that they might part ways with. I like Damiano Palmaggiani. That's about the most Italian name you can get. He's had a good season.
Again, that's just another one for Jim Price to pronounce, which would be priceless.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, the guy I really want from Toronto is a pitcher, but I doubt they'd get rid of Ricky Tiedemann.
I mean, the other are those are two arms, or the two players I mentioned is. I try to stay realistic with these trade possibilities because every time I see a piece about, well, we should trade Cody Clemens for Alex. Who's their top pitcher? Alex. Forgot the guy's name.
Alek Manoah?
Yeah, Manoah. No, we should trade for Manoah. No. What are you on dope? That's not going to happen. I do like Otto Lopez. I am a fan of him, but I don't know what the Toronto would give him up or not. But somebody like that, or even Matt Peacock, who they got from Kansas City, is down in AAA. It's a guy just to throw in an arm. So, but
strikeout of Jose Abreu on game day appears to be a foot above the strike zone on a foul tip.
By the way, props to Woodward Sports for this shirt. By the way, so
very cool.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so is there two down?
Yep.
Yeah. Michael Meyer, who was in our chat earlier, I don't know if he's still around. He said, "Here's a weird one. What is going on with the DSL Tigers 2 team? They seem to have been postponed for the last week. They've played about 6 to 7 less games than everyone else. We don't have sources down at the Dominican. At least I don't right now, but I can take one guess as to what's happened, why the team would miss a week. And I'm going to go ahead and say that there's probably a COVID outbreak. Either that or, it's the Dominican. Sometimes there's a lot of rain, but you would think that that would be affecting everybody. So, yeah, I assume that just kind of been an outbreak of some sort of disease in there. But yeah, I'm afraid I don't have a better answer than that.
Yeah, that's really about it in terms of there's a when it comes to the international side stuff on the Tiger side, it's very, very kind of very quiet. There's not you have to really, really super be plugged in to know, but
and play outs. That's game over. That is a 5-game winning streak for the Detroit Tigers, the longest of the year. Not bad. 5 straight against the Central too, right?
Yeah.
13 more in a row, and they'll be at 500.
All reliable.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a Todd Jones save.
Yeah.
They all come. You just got to get the horses in the barn, man.
Well, and that's that's impressive to get. 2-minute in scoring position, winning run on second. Jose Abreu up, dusts him with 3 pitches, and then gets that's a nice win for the Tigers.
You know what? I mean, this audio sums it up best.
What is the 5 fingers say to the face? What? Slap!
I figured it was going to be Chicago sucks, but
I do. I have that ready to go as well, but
Chicago sucks!
there you go. We did the one last question, and I don't know if this was directed at the show, but Steve Cook is always adding us on Twitter, and he asked does Wilmer Flores go to AAA this year? What scout or GM gets the credit for the signing? Finally looks like a top 100 prospect to me.
Well, Garco said today he might.
Yeah.
So it's possible.
Hey, wait. When did you say that? Was that during when I was at my softball game?
There was a quote late this afternoon. There was a quote that Dingler and Flores could potentially see AAA toward the end of the year.
Yeah, I can get I think Jason Beck had the exact tweet. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, that sounds right. It might have been Beck. Yep.
Yeah, Garco quote, I think at some point I wouldn't be surprised to see either one touching AAA this year and getting a look because they've certainly in stretches showed that they're dominating the AA league right now. I would not necessarily say that Dingler is dominating AA, but yeah, I mean, I could see them both getting promoted there. I think in terms of the who gets the credit, the signing scout for Wilmer Flores is Joey Lothrop. The Tigers' 4-corner scout, who is also responsible for tonight's winning pitcher, Bo Brisky, among other 4 corners area signings. I believe he was the signing scout for Gage Workman and Spencer Torkelson. And no surprise, he was named the Detroit Tigers 2021 Scout of the Year.
There you go.
So
he also likes and supports our stuff on Minor League Report too. So
yeah, well, he's an ASU kid. I think their 20th rounder last year, JD McLaughlin. He was from the same JUCO as Wilmer Flores. So I think don't be shocked if another player comes from at some point in this draft. We see another player come from that Arizona, Utah, Colorado area because it seems like they have a pretty good scout there in Joey.
Awesome. So was that you know what? Nick explained. I'm going to find that question real quick before we get out of here.
Sorry, I didn't see it.
No, that's no. Don't apologize, man.
Here we go. Here's a fun stat. 2 hardest hit balls tonight. Spencer Torkelson, 108.7. Riley Green, 108.0.
Nice.
Same time. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, let me go back through here. So before we get out of here, and we actually are going to do a live show, pre or post game show. If you want to join us, you're more than welcome to. The usual. Say what?
Not tonight. I'd love to. Okay.
Real quick, I'm just trying to get that last question here. Let me find it. Okay. Show prep on the air sucks, so I apologize. Dead air. Let's see here. I can't find that question now.
Dead air.
All right, Nick. No. Nick's a. You know what? Nick's a.
Is it
what?
It's not Nick Schlane, the Yankees guy, is it? It's
No. It's
Spillane.
Splane.
Yeah.
Just like Mickey Spillane.
From the
the
Monkeys?
That might be too old a reference. I don't know.
Was that the Monkeys?
No.
Who am I thinking of? Mickey. Who's Mickey from the Monkeys?
Mickey Spillane is a mystery writer.
Mickey Spillane. I've heard that name before.
Yeah, he wrote mysteries, like detective novels.
There's Mickey Spillane. Gotcha.
All right, here we go. Okay, I found it.
Rest in peace, James Caan.
Okay, here's a question from Nick. So again, sorry for that crappy dead air for a moment. Do you guys believe that there's an opportunity for the Tigers to make a deal with the Yankees on some relievers like Fowler, etc., to maybe get Joey Gallo at the discounted rate and hope he bounces back? Bounces from the Bronx, who, by the way, that should have been our ugly. Gallo's 1 for his last 33.
Yeah,
they're gonna DFA him. You can sign him anytime you want, then, right? I mean,
yeah.
The first part of Nick's question, yes, lots of teams should want Tiger relievers, and the Yankees will be one of them. and they got a lot of nice prospects. But B, Joey Gallo is not part of the future for me. I don't know about you guys.
No, yeah, I wrote an article, a trade piece earlier in the season about Joey Gallo being, I called it like a proof of concept trade. I compared it to the Johnny Peralta trade way back in 2010 or whatever, where because Joey Gallo, I think, is a free agent after this year.
Yep, Michael.
So basically, you get him for nothing, cash, and give him 200 plate appearances to see if he can figure something out. Maybe it works. Maybe you get a heads up on signing him. If not, it costs you nothing. There's no real harm because you're not winning anything this year anyway. It was just kind of a throwing something at the wall idea. I don't think that the Tigers, where they are right now, I think we're going to see Meadows played again tonight. He was scratched, but then unscratched and went out and played. Akil Baddoo, tonight was his first not like really good game in the last couple of weeks. I don't think he got a hit or a walk, but he's been playing well. I think we're going to see him more down the stretch. I don't think they're going to want to try something like that with the few outfield at bats they have, because Green's going to be a fixture out there, and Meadows will be a fixture, and I think Baddoo will be eventually too. So yeah, I just don't think it makes much sense right now, even though I proposed it like a month ago.
By the way, Bo Brisky is the first Tiger to go at least 5 innings without allowing a hit this season. So there you go.
No, that's not terribly shocking, right? I mean, that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
I mean, no hitters aren't as rare as they used to be, but still 5 no-hit innings is pretty uncommon. That's Brisky's been awesome since. Maybe awesome's a little bit strong, but since the beginning of June, he hasn't. I think he's given up 4 home runs. ERA is got to be like 3.4 now since June, and he's getting that slider working a little bit more. He's not going to be, I don't think, ever like a huge strikeout guy, but there's still a lot to like there. And like you said, another Wilmer Flores scouting win, Bo Brisky scouting win. Nice to have those.
You bet.
By the way, a good friend of the show, Harris Fromer on Twitter retweeted Down on the Farm that the Tigers last in terms of drafted WAR. I did that article 2 years ago, Chief. It's already been known. So why you?
Yeah, well, and since Avila took over, they are 20th in drafted WAR out of 30.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
and we'll have a full accounting for all that soon.
Yes, we have a secret project, the Avila secret project coming soon. I'm not gonna tell you any more than that. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a challenge to make this. We're doing something very different than what we normally do. But also, again, Harris, why are you stating the obvious? You're not stating about your take about Spencer Torkelson. Where's that at? Oh, wait, you're not gonna say anything. All right, so thank you so much for listening to. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry at all. Thank you for listening to Woodward Tigers here at woodwardsports.com. And Uper, I know you got out of here. Thank you so much. We're going to be doing a post-game wrap-up here in 2 seconds. And so check out all our great content over at woodwardsports.com. The heavyweights had me on yesterday talking Tigers. I appreciate them having me on. It was awesome. And yeah, we'll be getting the draft show is not too far away. There'll be some draft primer articles coming out too in the next couple days or so. So for myself, Chris Brown, and Uper all the way down in Iowa, we'll talk to you next week. Have a good week, everybody.